The reason I even know about this movie is because I found it while I was on an airplane from Denver to New York. I only had time to watch about half of the movie while I was on that flight, but it really piqued my interest, so I decided to rewatch it and watch it all the way through again. So for a little bit of context, this movie is about Rona. Rona is 29 years old and she's a recovering alcoholic. The movie often has flashbacks from her 19-year-old self, and I think at certain points, times in between the ages of 19 and 29, but most of the movie takes place present day when she's 29. The reason this movie really resonated with me is because I think it did a really good job of portraying isolation and the way that it kind of happens nowadays in the modern world. There's this one scene at the beginning of the movie where Rona is back in her hometown. She spent, a couple months there after leaving from London, and she has no friends there anymore. She doesn't really know anyone, and she's just in town, and she starts talking to this random guy. She asks him for a lighter for his cigarette. He doesn't have one. She then continues the conversation. It's a little awkward and stuff. And she eventually asks the guy if he wants to have a drink before he goes off to wherever he's going to. And in this scene, you can really see how desperate she is for friends and connection, and how isolated she's kind of become coming back to her hometown. And the thing is it was necessary for her to come back because she was not doing well before. She was struggling with alcohol, and it was to the point of completely destroying her life. In this movie, Rona also does a ton of reminiscing about the past. That's where most of the flashbacks come into play. She thinks about her life in college when she was in London, and her ex-boyfriend and old friends, and these are things that really have stuck with her, and I think she struggles with, and it depresses her how she's ruined relationships, and hasn't really had that closeness with anybody since she was back in London, was that age, sort of was alcoholic. Another thing she says at one point in the movie is that she doesn't think she can be happy without alcohol, or doesn't think she can be happy sober in general. And I understand this thought process. I think the reason most people are driven to alcohol and hard drugs in the first place is because they have underlying depression and struggle with stuff like that. Rona's dad is also a big part of the story. He struggles with mental health. He has bipolar disorder and also alcoholism, and Rona, for much of the story, struggles with him and struggles with how that affected her as a child growing up, with him having these manic episodes where he won't sleep and then he won't get out of bed for a super long time, weeks, months, maybe even. And there's this one scene towards the end of the movie where her dad gets taken to a rehab place or a hospital, and he's mad at Rona that he's there in the first place, and he's super upset that she called people to go check on him, and now he ended up in this hospital, and he's just kind of cursing her out and all this, and you can see how it really makes her upset. And I think this scene is interesting because early in the movie there's a similar scene with Rona's mom where Rona comes back from a bar, wherever she's been. She's super drunk, and her mom's trying to put her to bed, and while her mom's trying to put her to bed, she's yelling at her mom. She's going, "This is why dad left you. You chose religion over us." And the thing is this might be true, but obviously her mom, that's a horrible thing to hear from your daughter, and she puts up with it. She still loves her at the end of the day, and at least loves her enough to take care of her while she's in that state. There's also another scene that I think perfectly encapsulates Rona's relationship with her mother, a lot earlier on in the movie, which is they're at like a family gathering while Rona's been sober for a little bit, and she's taken a break from her schoolwork, and her mom tells all her cousins and everybody, aunts, that tells her her business, that she's, taking a break, that she's trying to get sober. And Rona obviously didn't want her to do this, especially not without her permission, and it drives her crazy. The anxiety of it just makes her like run outside. She wants to get away from everybody. And I can totally relate to this, especially with like, even if they're not straight up saying it, there's always like a certain level of competition, I feel like, within people that like it just makes you feel bad. Like I remember when I was in school and I would get bad grades, like I would always be embarrassed of it. And I'm not saying that's a one-to-one of what's going on in the movie here, but I definitely understand where she's coming from. This movie has Rona go through so much in her own head, and that's one of the things I love about it. I think this is more realistic to how people tend to go through things in real life. More of it is literally just internal, and you don't always have someone that you can go and speak to about whatever's happening inside of your head. Anyways, this is all I got for now, and let me know if there's anything similar to this movie because I really liked it. Yeah, that's it. See ya.